episode of Scale is Needed. Arm & Hammer, Kyle Bogart, Cliff Bogart, Daniel Kalbacher, you guys.
Yeah.
What's
up?
We're going to hit the ground running right now.
With
shit.
I don't know. I was hoping one of you guys would have some fitness talk. And we can just kind of...
Well, lots been going on in the world of fitness. They had a second CrossFit Games only a week after. The results were the same in every event.
Yeah.
So or I might have just rewatched it.
Yeah.
I may have just rewatched
Did
the
you get to
games.
watch the events that you didn't get to watch live, by the way?
I watched a lot of them back again, mostly like final heats and stuff like that. So I watched some of the... You know, the obstacle course. I watched some of the cheese curds. I watched some of the unicycle event. I watched some of the juggling parade. I watched some of the dunk tank. I watched some of the hat wearing contest.
That, by the way, is a good idea. Previously, the throwing event, the softball toss, was kind of dumb. But if you have a dunk tank like
Dunk
target,
Castro.
Exactly, Dunk Castro. But no, you have to throw and hit a target, but it measures both force and accuracy. So the harder you can hit the target and more accurately, that racks up a score there.
Or, you know, you're throwing at a dunk tank, but instead it's just like dunking like an effigy of Barack Obama, and then like Dave Castro comes out and just fires a gun into the air and he says, "Take that, cucks." And that's like it just feels more in the spirit of the CrossFit Games.
Are you saying
Kyle can always read the temperature of what the nation's at right now and decide just the right thing to say. The right thing to say at all times.
The revolution is nigh.
Are the CrossFit Games a conservative movement?
It feels kind of like it, doesn't it? You know, Castro giving away guns and stuff
I
like
was
that.
say there are definitely certain CrossFit people who are very in that direction.
Yeah,
in that
but
direction.
the Castro thing, like the guns, it's probably more libertarian than it is because they're friendly on social things. But I think that there's a definite defiant streak in there. But I kind of like to think of Castro as going like full 4chan at some point,
just losing his goddamn mind all over.
It's like the location for the 2019 CrossFit Games will be Pepe the Frog.
Yeah, in the capital of Kekistan.
Hey, that's what you should have said, Kyle.
That word coming out of my mouth makes me feel so fucking gross.
Can you feel the bile?
It's like disgusting.
Can you feel the bile just like gurgling in the back
disgusting.
of your throat?
9/11 was an inside job.
That is a...
we're full circle.
It brings us full circle
Yeah.
back to where we began.
What are you going to tell me? You're a pickle and 9/11 was an inside job?
What do you want? You want me to add something onto this? I'm a pickle and 9/11 was an inside job.
All right, so fitness-wise, just to kind of like touch back on some of the things that we have seen past the games. I took a look at some of the times and scores for 17.5 versus heavy 17.5, and you may be asking yourself, why would you do such a thing?
Because you have a lot of time on your hands.
Answer to that is I have a lot of time on my hands and nothing better to do.
All of CrossFit is over for like 8 months.
Yeah.
You got to fill your time with something.
At this point, that's just the surface of the esoteric metrics upon which I will be spending all of my time the next 6 months. So
you guys want analysis? Oh, I got analysis for you.
Oh, yes.
I'm taking numbers, comparing them to other numbers, putting them in grids, putting them in charts.
We're talking
tables. Come to FloElite.com for all the action.
Wait,
We're
so
talking
what kind of
red
charts are we
lines.
talking here?
We're talking blue lines.
You got some pie charts?
We're talking Venn diagrams.
You got some graph charts?
We're talking graph charts.
That's right.
Shaded and unshaded.
Whoa.
We're talking area under and above the curve.
Nice.
See, I'm liking the idea of you just sitting there putting together charts and graphs and whatnot, but then printing them out on one of those old like black and white like dot matrix printers.
Yes.
Where it's just got like little holes on the side.
Those
to feed
make
it through.
good sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. I think I'm thinking of getting a printer. I haven't had a printer in like 10 years. And have printers made advances in not sounding like terrible shit all the time?
Yes, they
They
have.
sound better now?
I was in the same spot as you were. I also recently bought a printer, and I felt like I was buying a printer. To me, I was buying a printer that was from the future.
Yeah.
Even that's because I was buying a 2017 printer, and my brain is stuck in 2006 printer
Yes,
land.
and it costs $7.
Yeah, it's,
I haven't even thought about that subject. Do they have so it's a $7 printer, but $15 ink cartridges?
Yeah,
just
I
prints
believe
out 2
ink
pages.
is by
that's
volume
kind of
the
been
most
the printer
expensive
model
thing.
for a long time. Is that Like ink cartridges, super expensive. The actual like piece itself.
Have they made
Garbage.
advances with ink cartridges not being really confusing and terrible?
I think that's intentional.
Yes, I've avoided printing a piece of paper in in somewhere in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
I think I haven't done it.
Not even here
I
at the
will
office?
literally go to. I don't know how to use the printer here at the office. So if I need something printed, what I will literally do is I will take the file to a UPS store and say, please print this. That is how infrequently I need something printed, and it's usually business papers. It's business. Documents of various kinds.
Yeah.
Usually government related. Divorce papers.
Mostly dicks.
Handgun license.
You're not even joking anymore. You're actually listing the last 3 things that you printed
No,
out.
I do actually
Divorce
like the idea
papers, handgun
of
license,
you going to the like
final will and testament.
to the FedEx Kinkos or whatever. Please print this out for me.
Yes.
And like the clerk at the desk like looking at it going, oh.
Yeah. It's a declaration of sovereignty of my independent nation of Kyrgyzstan.
We're still doing that.
Yes, we are.
Well, we can trace it back. We can trace it back to one specific moment. And it was going to the FedEx Kinkos and printing out the divorce papers. It was all spiraling from there.
Yeah.
It's all downhill.
Yeah, you're never in a good mood if you're having to print something. It means it's some sort of government document, some sort of thing. No one's ever printing things for good reasons.
Yeah, well, no agencies or institutions which are actually, high tech and with it and function properly require printed pieces of paper.
All aspects of your life that are positive exist within domains that have transferred entirely to the digital sphere. They are on iPads, they are on iPods, they are on screens. If you are printing something, it means that you are interfacing with the DMV or some bureaucracy or some terrible thing is happening to you. That's the only reason to hit print on anything anymore. Word.
This has been the worst start to a podcast.
Think about it.
I don't even understand. We made it 5.5 minutes talking about absolutely fucking nothing.
Talking about printers.
That was
very specifically.
That was substantive stuff. Here is something that's substantive, which has not been addressed yet. This sexy hair.
Why?
Look at this, everybody.
Look at that
this
hair.
Sexy hair. He doesn't
Why
wear
is
this
it-
hair out.
why
It's
is his
gorgeous.
hair-
Why
For
is
those
it your
listening
hair
on
down?
audio, Armin's hair, very sexy right
Very sexy and all out and
Don't
stuff.
redirect this at me.
Our
This is
viewer
about your
Greg
hair.
Book said put a hair tie on Armin.
And we just revealed that Handsome Chase also has his hair down.
Oh yeah, it's hair down day for
There we
everyone
go.
except Mr. Kyle.
Except
He
Mr.
needs
Kyle.
his hair
This
down.
bun is fake, by the way. This is just
It's a clip-on.
This is
Yeah, it's
been
a
clipped
clip-on.
to the back of my head
With a staple gun.
with a scrunchie.
Anyway.
It is a hair scrunchie.
So I looked at the 17.5 scores
Yes.
compared to this games version of 17.5.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much what you'd expect.
Yeah.
The people who are really good at that were also really good at the games version.
Big build.
So we waited
little payoff.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just felt the need to
What
bring
was
it
it?
back
What
to
was the
that.
average additional time there? I want to know. Was it 2 minutes
no
and
idea.
15 seconds in additional time
Probably
for every
something like
person?
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
I
around
do admire the
2
follow
minutes.
through.
Around
Like,
2 minutes
you-
longer?
You came back around to it.
Who won that event at the
Matt
games?
Frazier and Kara Webb.
And Kara Webb.
Kara
That's not
Webb.
surprising. Kara Webb.
Kira Weeb.
And so their 17.5 times were roughly 2 minutes slower.
About.
So what
Yeah.
was his time on heavy, or the bigger one?
Like 8:24:19.
20 something.
Okay.
8:24:19.
So
There you go.
He has that in memory. He's not reading off a computer
Not
right
at
now.
all.
yeah.
Chase is a savant.
This
Well,
is
but that would mean that his heavy version or long version is like 1/3 the time it would take me to complete the light version. Probably. I'm guessing.
That's probably accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's his light version was 620 something,
Yes.
and your light version would probably be.
Well, it's because that workout favors, things that he's good at, whereas other workouts that favor my strengths, we'd be more equally matched.
Right. Those things never showed up in the game.
They did not show up at the games.
Yeah. The 1 rep max
That-
deadlift wasn't there this year.
The hat wearing contest and the dunk tank did not actually show up this year.
Do you guys think that Matt is already back to training for 2018?
I hope
He
so.
said he was in that post whatever interview. He's going to start tomorrow. And you know what? For everyone else, I wouldn't believe that shit. For him, I do.
It's funny though. I like that he still lives in his parents' basement, so I'd like to think like his parents are like, he's down there already, training for the games all the time. You can hear him, and then downstairs he's like just playing video games, eating Cheetos. Yeah, I'm training, and he's just shaking the rack and like occasionally pushing over a bumper plate so it bangs on the ground.
You know what? He earned those Cheetos.
He sure did.
Yep.
I'm eating Cheetos for him.
That's right.
That's right.
We're in solidarity with Matt's victory, and he can vicariously enjoy his Cheetos through our mouths.
mouths.
Yeah.
I
Holy
want
shit, I want to eat Cheetos now. Jesus Christ.
I want
shouldn't
Matt
have brought them
Frazier
up.
to enjoy my mouth.
As if it was his own. So speaking of Cheetos, are you still doing keto and intermittent fasting?
I'm doing keto and
Whoa.
intermittent. My intermittent fasting is intermittent.
What?
Hmm.
What happened,
What
Chase?
happened, Chase?
What happened, Chase?
You guys remember that Elias Wheeler that
Yeah.
was in second place? He just said, I have an update. And apparently the guy that was in first was not eligible.
What?
Oh, shit!
No way!
He's been moved up into first.
He's
Oh
in
my God.
first
What the
place.
fuck? How is this still being decided? Shouldn't we know who the winner is
Well,
at this
I
point?
guess they have to do their due diligence to see, like, oh, is this person a Reebok?
So wait, how
athlete
much
or a
money is
Reebok
what?
employee?
What
Huh?
is the prize?
I'm looking.
He won
What is the
the
prize?
entire pick'em. He won
As of
like
right now,
the
yes.
rogue gear and all that. That's crazy.
Where do you see the prizes?
Daniel,
Wow.
you should find the prizes.
Comment
Oh my
what
god,
the-
oh my god, oh my
comment
god,
what
oh
the
my god,
prize
oh my
is.
god, oh my god, oh my god.
That's really nuts. Holy crap. Good job,
right.
us.
Yes.
First prize, Dream Gym Package.
Nice.
$20,000 worth of gym equipment from Rogue.
That is fucking cool.
That's
we should do a
okay.
piece with that guy. We should
That's
just
not bad.
we should all visit him and use his gear, right?
Whoa.
Oh, he's in. Where is he?
He's in like
Alaska.
butthole Alaska.
That sounds like. Let's go to
I'll
Alaska
say,
because it's fucking hot.
Has anyone
here
ever
right
been to Alaska? Let's go to Alaska, guys.
I've been to
Second prize
Alaska.
still sounds like the better deal.
Yeah, second
You have
place
Whole
does.
Foods
now. For a year.
Fit Aid,
Yeah.
which now that they have RX Fit Aid is worth something. A 1-year gym membership, depending on your gym, that's very expensive.
Yeah.
And a Rogue home gym.
Is
which
that
could,
not also part of his prize?
Yeah, does he only
Yeah.
get the home?
Because
the
usually
dream
they're
gym?
like included, but what's then the second prize would go in. If he gets that in addition, that would be great. You
Wow.
know? Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, that's I don't, dude. I've
Yeah.
never
Shit.
won anything before. I feel
Yeah.
really solid.
Yeah,
about
and you
this.
still haven't.
I feel really
we
good about
claim
this.
your victory.
Yeah,
Like
Right.
this
It's
The
weird.
scale as nation won.
it's
Yeah.
weird how he's in first and I'm in 10,000th, and he took my advice.
This is
Well-
the scale. This is the first victory for the Scaleless Nation in their campaign that we are waging against.
We're here to win, guys.
We're here to win. All right, one. This is the first
Against
battle.
who
This
and
is-
against what and what are
Yes.
we after? Guys,
I want something, and I want it soon.
Listen,
So this is one thing that we didn't ever actually do our due diligence and check to see if our guy was there. And it is him. It's totally him.
Wow.
Yeah, that really is. He's
Yeah.
not lying to
Not
us.
lying to us.
That's really impressive.
That is amazing.
I'm
Good
sure
for him.
Chase did his due diligence.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Totally did.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
You are correct.
So just to bring.
you're very convincing.
So a member of the Scaleless Nation is potentially going to win all of the pickups. So that's this is. I'm going to call this the beginning of a streak, where every year the pick'em will be won by someone who is a member of the Scaleless Nation. Isn't that right, Harmon?
That is 100% true.
Because of the quality of our advice.
Our analysis
Spread the word.
is fantastic.
Listen to this show. Win pick'em.
That's
Win
true.
pick'em.
Like that's how it works.
100% fact.
Next year, I predict it. One of our listeners will get the perfect bracket and win the $1 million.
We have a 100% win rate right now for
true.
Reebok Pick'em.
It's frightening how close he was to getting all of the men's correct.
Oh, really?
Really?
Where did
Yeah.
where did it fuck up?
Wait, it's frightening. Is it keeping you up at night?
Yeah, I haven't slept in days.
We can tell the hair's nuts. So let's break it down. What was
Can you
his
open his
10
picks?
versus what was his top 10 men's versus the real top 10 men's?
Yeah, do we have it up there?
Oh, we have it right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so he picked Fikowski to win. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
He went Fikowski, Frazier, Bridges.
Oh, so he
for his
followed your
top three.
shitty advice
Yeah.
and that kept him from $1 million?
Well, those weren't his only. Those weren't where he was completely off. But he got fourth, fifth, and sixth right on the money.
Yeah.
Patrick Bellner, Noah Olson, Bjorkman, Carl Goodmanson.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he picked Travis Mayer for seventh. Scott Panchik took seventh. He picked Ben Smith for eighth. Panchik took eighth. He picked Panchik for ninth. Alex Anderson took ninth. And he picked Newberry for 10th. And Yonakoski took 10th.
Yeah. That's cool though.
Yeah, that's really impressive. On the women's side, he got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the top 10 correct. Tia Claire Toomey, Sarah Sigmundsdottir in 4th, Carrie Pearson 10th, and Kristen Holte in 7th.
Also, look at his team results.
Yeah, his team results were pretty close. He swapped 1 and 2. He took Mayhem over Wasatch instead of Wasatch over Mayhem, but he also picked Fort Vancouver and NorCal CrossFit as
Like
third
right
and
on the
fourth.
money.
And I can tell, by the way, that he actually did listen to me because he picked a team that would never ever have gotten into the top 5 to get in the top 5 because I said I like CrossFit Maximus, and they got like last place, even though Dex has the best hair in CrossFit. He just their team just wasn't there this year.
Not there.
But yeah, congratulations, Elias.
Seriously.
That's a very, very impressive. That's super cool.
I don't know. It's not $1 million impressive.
It's not $1 million impressive, but considering he got out of the 25 picks, he got 10 of the 25 on the money.
Well, here's the thing I want to say is that I personally would really love that Rogue Dream Gym right now because our gym has been invaded by
Oh,
yes. Have you had
a
more?
new antagonist.
Tell me.
So long, Trap
See-
Bar Deadlift guy, and hello, Chippy, the new gym coordinator. His name is not
It's,
Chippy, but I'm gonna call him Chippy. Let's call him
Trap
Chippy.
Bar
for now.
Deadlift guy was poisoned, died. We were like, oh my god, like the villain is through. It's over. And then a new villain arose.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Anyway, so what I'm talking about is I was working out the other day and doing, just again really killing it. Throwing around some major weight. Really an exhibition of fitness that was inspiring to everyone around me.
Right.
And
I mean, men were jerking it. Women were swooning. They're
Yes.
all just staring at you,
Yes.
sweaty,
Yes.
slack-jawed looks.
And in addition to jerking it, they were also masturbating.
Don't Kai, don't laugh at that. That's not funny.
It's a fitness podcast. But anyway, yeah. So with some
Fitness
but,
jerking
but
joke
apparently-
into it.
Exactly. So anyway, I just had some guy come up to me and tell me I was doing a Metcon. I was just doing cleans on the floor, and I had someone come along and say, "Could you not do Olympic lifting on the floor?" And I did not like getting that particular note, and so I looked at that. So then I looked over at the platforms, and by the way, both platforms were occupied at that moment. And so I said, this was literally in the middle of my Metcon. And so he then comes over and says, and I say, well, as you can see, both platforms are occupied. So, and he says, well, you could just if you just do that kind of stuff, why don't you just go do it in the rack? We just have an open Rogue rack, so there's really no way to do anything in or around unless you were to just do it in proximity to a rack for no fucking reason. So I asked, how would one do cleans in a rack?
Yes! Yes!
And
That sentence is fucking magical.
that is word for word what I said. To which Chippy responded. And he goes,
my gosh, guys!
oh, jeez, well, and this is literally what happened. He walked over to the rack, and first of all, it had the arms. The particular rack he walked over to had the little arm. What are they called?
Right, so instead of the
stoppers.
hooks, it was like the
they had
arms,
stoppers.
yeah.
So he then points out that, well, these things are removable.
Wow!
Which was his first point, and I was like, yeah. And then he points at the J-cups, and he says, you can lower these down all the way to the bottom hole, and then you can just, you can take the bar out and do your cleans. So to reiterate, his instructions were just put the J-cups at the bottom J-cup hole, and then you can do cleans out of a rack.
Now, I wondered, is his notion of what a clean is, because he saw you, like, dropping it. So is his notion that you are to say, I'm just trying to get a picture of what's going on in his brain, to say drop the bar into the J-cups, which are flush against the thing?
Or potentially his version of it would entail just momentarily between sets stowing a bar in J-cups so that then one would remove it, touch it to the floor, and then do cleans, and then return it to J-cups
He
for
also
no reason.
understands that when you put the J-cup in the lowest hole, the bar won't sit in it,
It would
right?
not. That would not be yes.
He understands that things have size.
Yes, there's a distance between, called a radius between the center and
Kyle,
the
tell me
action.
about this guy. I didn't see him. Did he look like he lifted?
He looked like he lifted
Dicks.
Dicks. You got it. No, he did not look. He looked like a stranger to fitness. This man. And then this was. And then there's the other idea that, like, out of all the places to do cleans, you would want me to do them in direct proximity to fixed verticals, which doesn't necessarily sound like the safest thing to do anyway. It's not dangerous, but still. And to uselessly occupy, in an already kind of getting overcrowded gym, uselessly occupy one of the racks or one of the platforms unnecessarily for a duration of time. For what reason exactly? I mean, I try and vacate racks and vacate platforms as quickly as I can so as to make them available to people who need them for things.
You know, when we first discovered the wonderland that was the weight room at Austin Bouldering Project, we thought to ourselves, how could we have been this lucky?
It's too good to be true, almost.
It's too good to be true. They've built a giant open CrossFit space, basically. Platforms, bumper plates, barbells, racks,
ropes, rings,
everything, rings. And it's being run by someone who's trained in weightlifting and powerlifting and strongman and CrossFit and gets it and understands like what our needs and desires are.
Who's encouraging us
to lift and use the space and use the equipment.
Who has been conspicuously absent the last 6 months.
He's no longer there.
That's what I assumed is the case.
And
what
now
was his name? It was like Matt or something. I probably shouldn't say it, but whatever. It doesn't matter.
And now he's been replaced after all this time. And the writing has been on the wall, right? Over the past 6 months or so while Matt's been gone, you know, they moved some stuff around. For example, there was one open space along the wall where myself and other people would do handstand push-ups.
The handstand push-up spot.
And they got upset because we were scuffing the paint on that part
Did
of the
they actually
wall.
get upset?
Did they upset about that?
Yeah, they would repaint it, and then we would rescuff it, and they would repaint it, and we would rescuff it, and they finally took like the Gravitron, like the pull-up machine, and they just like shoved it in like awkwardly into that space.
I had no idea that was
why
a thing.
That's why they moved it.
I didn't realize
It's
that.
such a weird
because
fucking space.
I for the first, this is interesting. I for the first time in I don't know a year did handstands against the wall there, just because I'm doing that now for reasons, and that space was taken up. So I just did the only open wall left is the big light colored like white-ish wall right by the entrance, right in front of where everyone enters the gym space there, which is way more conspicuous and scuffs show way easier. I did them right there.
And that wall is hand painted to look pretty. It has designs and stuff painted on it. The only other open space to do anything against the wall is on the matting, where they'd like added in that little extra wrestling matting, but everyone's always stretching up against there. Or like me, you sit with your back against the wall and play Hearthstone until Katie or Giannis arrives
to get blood flow to the quadriceps.
That's right. And so, you know, there's been some very conspicuous decisions made that are like disencouraging our fitness from taking place.
Yes, it is interesting. And then weirdly though, the next day I went in there and I was kind of already like, I'm kind of already thinking like, all right, this is like the writing's on the wall. This place is going to be burnt soon. And then when I went in and talked to one of the trainers, he just came up to me because I was on a lifting platform doing my snatch workout, and he's like, "Did you hear we're gonna really move some stuff around in here again?" And I was like, "All right, interesting. What?" And he said, "Oh, well, we're gonna move, you know, these platforms over here, blah." And they're thinking about adding in a new platform, and they're gonna try and outfit with a bunch more bumper plates. So there's instead of steel plates,
all bumper plates.
Yeah, he said all bumper plates and stuff instead of steel plates. So they'll have tons more bumper plates and blah blah blah. And so I was like, all right, that sounds encouraging. That sounds like they're trying to cultivate more fitness and things in the and weightlifting in the space. So who knows? I think it's up in the air right now.
I think they have. So there's also, this is getting very very much macro view into our, like the four of our lives.
Yes.
Micro view.
Micro view.
Yeah.
Very good. Micro view into our lives. But the other CrossFit gym that all four of us were once a part of at some point or another has closed down and has reopened inside of ABP's competitor Crux.
Oh, interesting.
So now inside of the only other giant indoor rock climbing space is an actual official affiliate. And so I guess
Where's that located?
that is on South Congress.
Oh, okay.
That's too fucking
It's
far
a little
away.
too far south from here for you guys at least. But so, you know, now they're kind of I guess maybe they're feeling some pressure from the market to kind of respond to that. Although I don't understand why they even would, because people like us are such a small portion of their clientele that like they can fill that weight room, that fitness room with a bunch of like randos doing like, finger pull-ups.
But that's the thing though. It's like, from what I've gathered in there, like a lot of the people in that space, in the space we're in, are kind of like us. They only use that space. Like, I mean, you see like the climber people like kind of walk in, walk out, do their little finger pull-ups, etc. But like,
those finger pull-ups are badass. Don't denigrate.
No, fuck those finger pull-ups.
But like, no, this is one of those gyms where
that was jealousy, by the way.
Yeah, it's kind of very interesting, because most of the people I know who go there, if they climb, they only climb.
Sure.
They do not, like, they've never stepped foot in the weight room. If they do the yoga thing, they only do yoga.
Yeah.
They don't
So
step foot in the weight room.
that brings
or,
us
like,
back around to then, if they are attempting to make more accommodations for more capacity for people who do weightlifting and CrossFit type stuff, if that were a thing, why Chippy? Why Chippy? Why is he there? Who is Chippy? Why is his name Chippy? Did I make that name up?
No.
Is he young or is he old?
He's young. He kind of looks like a pencil. Have you
All
ever
right.
seen a pencil before?
That's what I was setting you up for before, Kyle.
Yeah. Wait, are you somehow saying that I have more mass than Chippy?
No, he's definitely has a little bulkier, more of a
Bulkier
weight,
pencil?
Bulkier than you,
Yeah.
most definitely. Leaner.
He's a number 2.
He's a number 2.
But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So-
I've had good experiences there generally, but there's always been the feeling of like, okay, we need to tread lightly here, because there's a bunch of people who don't fucking get it.
Yeah.
And you have to be real careful. Like,
No, I had that same. The thing is, I had that same feeling for a long time, especially early on. I had that feeling. This like, let me just stay out of the way, make my own space, so that we don't get kicked out of here. And then after several conversations with Matt, who then ran the thing, I began to get more comfortable, stretch out. Like, oh, I guess they really do want us here, which is awesome. So, and they brought in a second lifting platform and all that stuff, and I began to feel very comfortable in that space. And then pre-Chippy, there was a moment where I was lifting or doing something. I probably was lifting out on the floor because there wasn't a lot of room and dropping weights. And then it just popped into my head. Haven't seen Matt in a while. And literally the second that thought entered my brain, I just got this weird sick feeling in my stomach, like, shit. Like I really thought like, I felt like the one ally in the back of my mind that made me think that like, okay, this is a fitness friendly environment is gone. I hope that doesn't mean anything bad is coming. And then sure enough, as if it were a confirmation of that fear that I had had a couple weeks ago when the thought popped into my head, enter Chippy. So
did I ever tell you the story about how one time, not right before, but like soon before Matt like got fired or left ABP, we always look for places to shoot like B-roll or videos or whatever for the gear that I'm reviewing constantly. And so I had asked him, I was like, hey man, are there times during the day where it's like especially dead and I can just come in and like use the space and just shoot in here? And he was like, yeah, totally, here are the times, like use it between these times. And so I went to the gym one day with Kyle Sockwell of Flow Swimming, and we were filming like this like weightlifters problems
skit
video
thing,
or whatever, skit video. Yeah. And in busts like, I don't know, like the owner, the head manager, whatever and he's like, what are you guys doing in here? I'm like, oh, we're just filming like this thing. I spoke with Matt and I had permission. He's like, which Matt? I was like, I didn't even know there's more than one Matt. I don't know. The Matt that told me he's like the manager of this side of the business. And he's like, yeah, no, we don't allow anybody to film here for any reason. And I was like, okay, like we'll be done in a couple like we're almost done here. And he's like, no, you guys have to leave right now. It's like, okay. And ever since that point, I've like seen that guy walking around the gym a lot more. Like, he has like that, like, I'm a boss, this is my place vibe around him. And I just fucking mean mug that guy's face every single second I see him. It's just like,
so what does this guy look like?
He is, I mean, he looks like a climber. I don't know.
Yeah.
They all look the same. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So going for a pencil and a generic climber.
Yes.
Sinewy long arms.
Yes.
On a person.
I'm just saying, I think the takeaway here is 10 years ago, the idea of just having a CrossFit gym was like a huge risk. Just opening one, you're like, are there going to be enough people that want to do this? Now, in a place like Austin, which to me is like not the cutting edge of the fitness landscape in the world. I think places like Los Angeles or the Bay Area or even like Miami or New York are further along the evolutionary pipeline.
Yeah.
But if somewhere like Austin is jonesing for just an open gym model, that is where this world is right now. Like that's where you're gonna make your fucking money. Instead of building a CrossFit gym and only having a CrossFit gym and being like, you're gonna pay $220 a month for classes. Like create a space where you can set aside 80% of the floor space or just people to walk in from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. and work out.
Yeah, the reason, I just want to say that the only reason I didn't return to Eastside Elite post-injury was because there is the gym literally was, and it's closing now, but it literally was not open any time that was not classes. They would do like 4 hours of classes in the morning. They would do like classes starting at like 3 or 4 p.m. that would go all the way through 8, and then like as soon as like the last class ends, like the gym closes 30 minutes afterwards. So it was all classes, and then in the afternoon,
about 3 hour afternoon.
But in the middle of the afternoon, in the middle of the workday, they're when no one shows up, like, oh well, there's a few open gym hours in there, but it's like who can go from like 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. to go and use their open gym hours, and it was closed as soon as the last class was, and additionally they didn't have classes on the weekend except for some morning stuff on Saturday, and they were closed on the weekend because there were no classes. And obviously it was multiple things going on. It was an MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym as well, but it was entirely built around the class model, which was awesome when I could participate in classes. But once my lifestyle meant that I need access to equipment, but I can't participate in the classes. I have to do my own programming. It just became a situation where I couldn't continue to go back, and that's why Austrian Bouldering Project was the kind of perfect thing. I just think that, and more broadly, I just think that what people are looking for in the interior of a gym space now, I think across the country, I think the level of education and the style of working out and everything that is changing and is raising, that this like rigid dichotomy between like a class-based CrossFit gym outfitted as such, a box, and then just an open gym full of elliptical trainers and elliptical machines and
other machines.
It doesn't work anymore, and there needs to be, and that's what this was. It was that thing that exists in the middle, and that it was an open gym, but it has functional fitness equipment just like a box has.
Plus the minimal necessary shit for folks who want to do bodybuilding.
Yeah, exactly, and like dumbbells and stuff. But there's a presumption that yes, you can come in and use ropes and barbells and platforms and all of this sort of stuff and know what you're doing. And you could just come in and use, and that's why it has been a wonderful situation thus far. So
that's
I want to see more of that, is what I'm saying.
That's something that it's 2017 right now, so 4 years ago or so, like 4.5 years ago, my brother and I were looking for what the next move was going to be with our gym. Is like, are we going to find a bigger space? Are we going to find a second location? Like, what's the move? And the model that we both were like, man, I feel like this would succeed if we could just make it happen, was big open space, basically open gym with a couple of classes during the day and like specialty stuff going on to like catch people up if they want to be caught up on. And obviously you offer stuff like, oh, we have a yoga room or whatever, or you have like personal training if someone wants personal training, but mainly it's just a space that people can be in and utilize. And it's really difficult to find like the right numbers for that, especially because location is really key. And cost really rises for real estate and that sort of thing. But I think if I'm just looking at where the landscape is in terms of like fitness, I know that there's thousands of people like me and like us who just want a space that's equipped like that, but not the rigidity and the format of a class.
And has the flexibility as well to be, not just in terms of programming, but the flexibility in terms of scheduling, that at whatever time I want to leave the office, I can go and work out, and I don't have to like, I didn't make the 3, I'll go to the 4. Oh shit, the 4 is all booked. I guess I'll have to sit around and wait for the 5 o'clock class or whatever. That which is another burden on the class thing. Though that being said, to play devil's advocate for a minute to everything we've been saying about this, the one thing that we as much as we've been shitting on all the climbers who don't do like shit in the gym, potentially, and I don't know any of the numbers behind it, the only reason that box exists in the form that it does is because it's being supplemented by all of those climbers who are paying all that money to have access to the climbing side of the gym, and as a result, they can afford to, as as an amenity, have this amazing facility, because that parking lot is very, very full every evening, and it's very, very full of people who are all going over to the other side of that gym to go climb the rock climbing walls. And so, as much as we're shitting on, like, these people, they don't belong over here, it's probably them paying the money. It is them paying the money that makes this, that supplements the lack of interest potentially in just a space that would just have platforms.
It's possible, but just thinking about the numbers of it, like that side of the gym is maybe 5,500 square feet, maybe 6,000 square feet if you're like really fucking pushing it. Like I don't know if it was a perfect rectangle, but in reality, it's fucking packed. Like every night, that place is like elbow to elbow with people doing shit. And I get that the climbing side is also just as packed and just as busy, but I would say it's probably much easier to bring people in and fit people into like a gym than it is like per square foot than it is to like a climbing space, because you can only have one person on a route at a time. And all the routes overlap, so you're basically having like one person per every 3 routes at a time, and so there's like hundreds of people just like standing around staring at someone else trying to climb.
I wouldn't know. I've never been to that side.
There you go. There you go. I'm just saying, if the idea is like maybe the climbing side subsidizes the weightlifting side, then imagine you and I who don't go to the climbing side, the 4 of us who don't go to the climbing side, instead of paying like the $60 a month, what if it was only $35 a month, because we're not paying for half the gym?
But what the climbing I think does is I think that there's I would assume that there is a broader interest in climbing than there is in a non-CrossFit affiliate CrossFit space. I think that what I mean by that is I think there's a broad interest in people like who want to go and join the Austin Bouldering Project so they can try bouldering, because maybe that's the key to fitness for them as they're trying different things, and that shines
just for fun.
That what that does is that shines a tremendous spotlight on that side of the gym, in that you're bringing in basically a lot of traffic for people who want to give bouldering a try, and and in the same way that I have been tempted to, but never actually gone through with it, to wander over to the bouldering side because I'm like, I'm already paying for it, I might as well check this shit out. It's like they have this gym space over here with platforms and racks and things, and I was like, well, I'm already paying for it, I might as well check it out. And so would they have that same level of traffic would they have the same level of traffic in that gym if it were freestanding and did not have that? I mean, pretty clearly not, but could one cultivate it? I don't know.
Well, so one thing that I've noticed, and like the people I know who go to this gym, like they are less fitness minded, I guess, or whatever. It's like I have friends who literally go just for the yoga, friends who literally go just for the classes or whatever. But I think the atmosphere of the climbing part, it being this big, bright, nice, sunny community or whatever, like brings people in. They're like, oh, this is nice and cool, instead of it being like CrossFit Death Grip or whatever the
Wait,
fuck.
Are you saying I shouldn't wear black eyeliner when I go? Is that's the problem? That's why I was singled out. It was my black eyeliner.
Yeah, your yes. Yeah, no, it was I was gonna say it was the metal T-shirt, but you wear the metal T-shirt.
I do wear the metal T-shirt.
But it is a thing where it's like I think the general perception of this gym is that it's like, oh wow, this is a nice, bright, sunny, cool place, and so it brings more people in, even if they're not climbing. Yeah. Like into some of the other things around the gym.
It is much easier to pick up climbing as I'm going to give this a shot versus like walking into a weight room.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like, sorry, I just want to get, it's like right now, all right, we're talking about like, oh God, what if this place goes downhill? it took me a while to get into this gym right now, like the one that we're in right now, and start weightlifting and do all of that. I am tremendously intimidated to have to move over to, and I won't have to, I know this, but like the idea of this gym versus say Hyde Park gym or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like for someone like me and for like a lot of the people in that weight room, it's like that place over there is scary.
Yeah.
This like this
Hyde
place
Park-
is very nice.
For those of you who don't know, Hyde Park Gym, and most of you wouldn't, why would you? Hyde Park Gym is like this very old school, grungy, powerlifting, weightlifting, bodybuilding gym in the middle
sure
of Hyde
is.
Park.
It literally
And it's
has a
fucking
muscle, like
awesome.
like a fucking arm
It has
coming
a-
out
it
of the
has-
building.
Yes, it has a paper mache, a gigantic paper mache arm that's all covered in veins.
and
Yeah.
a giant bicep.
That's like poorly sculpted in a kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
threatening way, you know, and just it sticks out of the front of
Yeah.
the building.
Now, honestly, that is the best gym to work out at in the city, as far as I'm concerned. The problem is, as full as our gym gets in the evenings, that gets really fucking full. Even
Yeah.
though they have like 15 Olympic lifting platforms, there's a queue for them.
Yeah, it is like walking distance from my apartment, but the reason I don't go is I attempted to try. I tried it out, but it was just like if post work getting into that place, it's just fucking nuts. Anyway, but yeah. And here's the thing, just honestly, that I don't like is just the idea of like why must there be, should there be, and this is really the thing that pisses me off is why should there be any antagonism whatsoever between the bouldering side of things and then our fitness side of things, in that we're all just trying to get fit, we're all doing things, and yet, you know, them climbing up a wall, you know, that they could potentially fall off of and break their ass does not have the cosmetic appearance of danger, and as a consequence, there's no risk of, you know, we don't want to alienate CrossFit people by having people climb that wall, and yet me dropping a barbell that has like 225 pounds on it has the cosmetic apperance of danger to
But it's
people
loud.
who are, yes, exactly,
Yes,
because
it's
it's loud, has the cosmetic appearance of danger or something threatening to bouldering people, and as a result, it's maybe an issue that needs to be talked about or moved to the to the designated area, because maybe it's dangerous or something to do cleans in the middle of a fucking 100 by 100 foot space with flooring that is outfitted for lifting purposes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm getting down to here is it is prejudice, privilege, 1%ers,
More P words.
cucks.
Cucks. It's a cucking gym. It's not a climbing gym. It's a
right.
cucking gym.
Take that.
That sounds like it could be something completely different.
Yeah,
That's the
that's,
part that they're
that's-
going to pull.
Ooh, yeah.
That's the audio clip they're going to pull when they use it as an excuse to kick us out of the gym
Yeah.
permanently. This will eventually work its way back. Hashtag ABP, you guys.
Anyway, so that's enough micro fitness talk. No one gives a shit about our gym experiences.
No,
I think.
that there's a universality to these experiences. I think a lot of other
Universality to
people-
bitching about about the problems at a gym
that's
and
a good
dealing
point.
with normies.
Our high moments on this podcast have been bitching about gym etiquette, and we're just kind of coming back to it now. So, so take that, world.
True. Game of Thrones.
I have not watched.
Who cares? It's okay.
It's not.
Yeah.
So it's not worth talking about too much, other than to say, you know, this is this is amongst the many mediocre episodes this season. Is the one that's the most starkly just an outline, unadorned. There's no big dragon battle or anything to look forward to. It's just every single scene that happens, and there's no egregiously horrible scenes like
No, it
the
was decent.
scene with what's her head drinking the poison. But no. But the problem here is that there's every single scene consists of the characters saying the minimal necessary plot things that are needed to be said in that scene, unadorned. It's not like the dialogue has been spiced up to be accurate to character or have subtext or anything like that. It's just the unadorned recitation of the minimally necessary plot things for that scene to be complete, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And sure, the plot advances real quick and it's moving really fast, blah, blah, blah. Fast is okay, but it's literally just, this is the most stark example of a completely unadorned outline for an episode.
Yeah, the entirety of the dialogue in this episode was basically summed down to, we need to go here, we need to do this.
Yep.
We can't do that. We need to do that.
Well, I think
and
like
then they
this
proceed to do that.
This episode specifically, and I was talking to Cliff about this after the episode, it highlights so hard what this whole season has been, which is like, one, yes, it is like a fucking outline and they're just hitting all little points as they go along, but the pacing issues are so fucking, they're just stark in this episode. Stark,
Very clever.
Oh, I'm so clever. But no, like they're just like the pacing issues are staring you in the face the entire episode, where it's like in the same episode we get, you know, Jorah returning, Jorah hanging out.
Spoilers, you guys.
Oh no.
You guys?
Jorah hanging out with everyone, volunteering to go to the north, and then being in the north. Like all in the same, all of these things happen, like things that like normally would take multiple episodes to like build up to.
Oh, by the way, guys, when I say unadorned here, this is something, Kyle, you can probably remember from the previous episode. Say you've been looking forward in the series, for example, to when Sansa and Arya meet again after many years' absence. And when they actually meet, what it consists of is Sansa is in a room and Arya's in a room.
Look, they're in the same room.
Look, they're in the same room, and that's it.
Yeah.
Likewise, with this, it's even more clear when they're... in the special feature after the episode, amongst the special features after the episode, said, you know, get inside the touching moment when Jorah re-meets what's-her-head. There's no touching moment. What it consists of is Daenerys is there, and then Jorah gets there, and then they're both there for a second. They say, unadorned and unemotionally, several plot things, and then he's gone.
You have healed yourself.
I
have healed myself.
Yeah. No, literally, no, it's like the weird Dothraki guy. He's like, this man says he's your friend. He is my friend. Like, oh god, fuck that scene.
Yeah. So it's like again, it's just their pacing would be fine. Fast pace is okay. Fast pace is fine if there is some art to it.
Yeah.
If you try to have drama and tears and some subtext and some passion, there's none of that. It's just even the things which obviously must call for it. The scene calls for some emotions here. The scene, the pattern is established, because in that Arya and Sansa meeting, I was like, there's a part of me that thought, are they just trying to do a thing where they show that they're both kind of cold bitches who have no emotions anymore, and is that a thing they're trying to do? But then when they do with two entirely different characters and in a different context, and they also show no emotions, they just say the things of seeing each other. So you're back and you healed yourself. Yes, I healed myself. I wouldn't be here otherwise. Yep. And good, and that's done. Yeah. It's like, no, that wasn't a thing. It's like there's nothing else there.
Yeah.
There's nothing else
This
there.
is another thing that in previous seasons there has often been a kind of a stoicism or an emotional reserve to scenes in Game of Thrones, but it would be because the on top of the outline, things would be built to a place where characters' motivations and their relationships to each other were complex and conflicted. So one could not be unreservedly happy or unreservedly sad or unreservedly friendly, because there were many things throwing people into conflict all of the time. And so it was always, every little victory was with had some little stain upon it or some little thing. And so there was an element of emotional reserve to a lot of the series. There was not a lot of exuberant joy, let me put it that way, in the series. So now they don't have that conflict. Everything just sits there on its face. So when Jorah comes back, there's nothing there to make her, and I haven't even seen this episode, but there's nothing there to make her feel this way. Or when Jon meets Daenerys, there is nothing there to make anyone feel any particular way, in any way conflicted. I was saying this when I was talking to my girlfriend about it. Like when Jon arrives, old school Game of Thrones, she should, like execute the Onion Knight for some offense or something like that, because because somehow, like, by serving him and he's not the king in the north, and she needs to show strength and show Jon that she's not fucking around, so she kills the guy he's with thinking that he's some sort of so-and-so, or maybe one of her subordinates kills him, so all of a sudden they have to be friends, but at the same time now Jon Snow wants to kill Daenerys because she killed the Onion Knight, and Daenerys wants to blah, and like that's old school Game of Thrones. And instead they're just in a room together, and yet they are behaving with this level of stoicism and reserve that one would expect from a series with all of that weight and all of that conflict and all of that complexity behind it. But there's no complexity.
Yeah,
there's no reason for them not to just high five each other.
And this is the thing which I think confusing many people who aren't like super smart like me, who can see these things with multiple parts. But it's like a lot of folks who are watching the series have emotional investment in these characters from having watched the series before, and are given the illusion that those characters still exist in this show because it's the same actors with the same face and voice, also in costumes there. It's an illusion. There is no Daenerys anymore. That character no longer exists. It's the same actress, also in a costume, with the same face and voice saying things.
Same wigs.
That character isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Jon Snow doesn't exist anymore. All these characters literally don't exist in the show anymore. That is an illusion created by the fact that they trotted out the same actor who's still getting paid a lot of money, hopefully, but has kind of looked at the script and is like, yeesh, what can I do with
we're
this?
all slowly realizing that the people who are in front of the camera weren't making up those words the whole time.
Yeah.
It turns out that Amelia Clark, or whatever the fuck her name is not a badass smart lady who is a freer of slaves.
She doesn't need to be.
She's just some dumb actress, and there's just some dumb writers behind it. And now it's like as I've said before, the teleprompter has shorted out, and now they're just up there just trying to make it up as they go along.
Yeah, it's there's a few things about there's only 7, maybe 8 full episodes of Game of Thrones left.
Yeah.
It's 2 in this season
8,
and 6 next season.
Too many.
So it's I mean maybe too many.
Yeah.
At this point. There's a couple things that struck me. One is the characters aren't acting like they've been built up to the characters they were. To what Cliff is saying,
They
they're
don't
not
exist
there
anymore.
anymore. Daenerys is basically now this caricature of her father for no fucking reason, who she never was like to begin with.
Yes,
and
they've
then
basically taken in recent episodes the idea of like writing this strong and complex female character and just turned it into she's kind of cunty boss lady, and like that's really it. And like this goes from like when in the middle of episode 1 or 2, she just for no reason like dresses down Varys, and it just seems like what is it that, and it really seems to again be because they needed Varys to say some things, and because they needed words to come out of Varys' mouth to bring us up to speed on where he's coming from. They were like, well, what if she starts yelling at him? And that essentially her bearing throughout the whole thing is just cunty boss lady, and that's it from now on.
So one of the silly things about the Varys thing is that if you're like it's evidence they're focusing on the wrong things, because if you're following the show, Varys somehow goes from like actually plotting the assassination of Daenerys to hanging out with her. In the books, this makes sense because he's actually backing someone else, like for the Iron Throne. He's backing a character that does not appear in the show. Period. So for whatever reason, the writers were like, we can't just have Varys go, I'm on your side now. We must now have a whole scene to explain it for no reason.
Yeah, I would
because
not.
No one was paying attention to that, and it didn't matter.
It did not matter.
Another thing that strikes me about this episode is that it seemed like, and they even fucking mention it. Okay, so the whole thing about the end of the episodes, they do the inside this episode. That is now becoming a necessary part to try and understand what is going on because
it's not on the screen.
It's so poorly written and put on the screen.
That's why that special feature was. That's why that special feature was titled "The Touching Re-Meeting."
They need to explain
it was
it.
touching.
There's like a moment,
Crazy.
There's even one where DB Weiss or whatever is sitting there and he's like, you can tell this raw sexual tension between Jon and Daenerys.
It's like, no, I can't.
They're like two mannequins who are standing next to each other in the store window.
I remember his exact words, I think, were when they go into the cage. It's like, plus, as they're trying to reconcile this stuff with his interest in the North and her and his blah, 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 he goes, and plus, they're having to deal with the fact that they're clearly so attracted to each other. I'm like, are they? They're both in a room, and there's a torch.
There's even this moment in this episode, you'll see it, where he's like, I have to leave, and she's like, I haven't given you permission to leave yet. And I was like, this is your fucking best bet? Like, you guys are getting paid millions of dollars to make the show, and that's the dialogue that you're choosing to make.
And it's
seem
becoming
like
tremendously clear to me that at this point, the reason why it is like 7 episodes and 6 episodes is because
There's only so many things they can refer to.
Stop. One, it's like, yeah, they're not good writers and don't know how to make it work out. But 2, they are so done with this.
Yeah.
Like, and also I do have a little bit of sympathy for them, only a slight bit, because you know that like when they first like put this thing together, they're like, sweet, those other 2 books will be done by then. It's gonna be fine. We'll be able to adapt this very well. It's going to work out.
Yeah.
And now they're like sitting there like, you know, in a raft in the middle of the ocean, like,
Yeah.
fuck,
Yes.
let's just get out of here. Let's get out.
But basically, like, they're the handsome guy in, like, Cyrano de Bergerac, which is, like, George R. Martin is hiding underneath, like, the balcony, like, feeding them lines, and they get to look really good.
Ooh,
Like,
wait, I have the perfect solution
Yes.
to the whole problem. Ready, guys?
we watch Roxanne.
No, we need to. They need to have an intervention here, real quick, where we just level with George R. R. Martin. George, stop writing these fucking books.
Yeah.
You're not going to live long enough to finish it. We all know it. You have diabetes.
Uh-huh.
It's not going to happen.
He definitely has diabetes.
So what you're going to do is the time you would spend writing the books, you're going to instead spend doing punch-ups on the show for these remaining episodes, such as they are. Just add a little bit that R.R. Martin spin, that R.R. Martin vibe.
Yeah, that's right. He will you know, and then as he begins to write them away, kind of like Jorah, he'll begin to lose like body parts to his sickness, like a foot or something to diabetes.
Hey, he doesn't need much. He can totally be Stephen Hawking in a chair, vaguely paralyzed. But if he can move one finger, he can still do punch-ups on the fucking screenplay.
He'll be in that
Working
iron
out.
lung
That is
from
actually
Big
really great though,
Lebowski.
because it is one of those things where it's like we often talk about like
Brandon,
the whole thing where it's
especially the
like,
later seasons, were
we-
so important to me.
We've been talking about a lot how like, you know, the book seasons versus the now seasons, you know, and the marked difference. The other thing in the book seasons was George R. R. Martin was literally writing episodes of the show.
That's a good
Like
point.
he was actually involved in the show,
Yeah.
and at a certain point, I don't actually. One of the things that I've heard, I don't know, who knows, could just be internet gossip, but apparently he's not super happy about the show.
Why
anymore
would he be?
either.
Yeah, I don't
And
imagine
like
he would.
I know he broke off from the show to go finish the books, obviously, but also like, dude, just write a couple scripts even. That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
The thing that's most frustrating to me about this, and you know, we're beating a dead horse here, but the thing that's most frustrating to me about this is we've talked about how it feels like fan fiction. We talked about how quickly it moves. We talked about how none of the characters are there, but there's also no creativity to the plot that they're putting out there.
Yeah.
They literally talk about how they're recycling plot lines. It's like this episode had a handful of moments where they literally were like, we need to fucking put something here. Okay, well, didn't Ares the Mad King burn Ned Stark's father and brother? Great, let's have Daenerys burn Samuel Tarly's father and brother. Well, didn't Littlefinger trick some people by making them think that they're following him when he's actually leading them on before? Yeah, let's have him do that again this season. And it's like, didn't they talk about bringing a White Walker down to King's Landing at some point to convince them that they're actually zombies? Yeah, that didn't work. Fuck it, let's have him do it again today. And it's like every plot point in this episode was, well, we did this in seasons 1 through 6. Why don't we just do it again?
And even here's the thing: even if they are operating off of beat by beat outline from George R. R. Martin, which is unlikely, still, if he were writing these things, he would, you know, even if the same thing happened, he'd find a way to misdirect you so that the thing that he actually wanted to happen would still seem somewhat like a surprise.
Yes, that is the other thing, is that something, and this is, I'm going to cringe just saying this phrase out loud, but it's something that they emphasize when you're talking about screenwriting or any kind of writing, is the idea of the surprising but inevitable. So you have to figure out a way to set something up, and this is just, you know, I hate saying it's writing 101, but
it literally is.
Yes, but you have to find a way to make something that is coming set it up sufficiently that will not feel like it's coming completely out of left field, so that it will make sense, so it will be interpretable at the moment of revelation, and yet deftly set it up in such a way so that the audience expectation of where it's going to go is different, so that when it comes, you realize the inevitability of what happens, but at the same time, it is still surprising. And yet, in this, instead, we keep getting again and again, and this is really, I think, at the heart of why we keep calling it an outline, is that the story scenes, episodes, moments before it goes in a direction, it points directly to where it's going. And that's why it feels like an outline and not a fully written story. In that, you know, if someone, you know, it's like we're like days before, episodes before the Jon and Daenerys meet, we are told that it's going to happen. We are pushed in that direction. We know kind of how we're expecting them to feel about each other in our kind of just dumb story forecasting brain. Oh, they're both good people. They'll probably get along. And then that's exactly what happens when we get there. There's nothing. It's just at this point, it's like someone just it's like you go to a concert and then after the break the band comes out and says, now we're going to play our second album in its entirety. And you're like, that kind of ruins it for me because now I know all the songs and what order they're coming in. So any sense of surprise or expectation or excitement about where I know exactly what the rest of the concert's going to be now. And so I think I'm just going to go home. And that's kind of what it feels like. Like I know what the rest of the concert is. So I just kind of want to go home.
And we want to go home to Rick and Morty.
Yes. Yeah. Which was amazing.
It was.
Yeah.
I'll say this about this week's Rick and Morty. It's like it's the least of the episodes this season, definitely, in my mind. It's definitely the least, and yet the episode that is the least of any of the episodes I've already watched twice since last night, and is utterly delightful and surprising and funny and just takes you off guard and is just wonderful, wonderful. And yes, so it really is. We're hitting just peak show, and I don't mean peak Rick and Morty. I mean like as good as any show has ever been. That's where Rick and Morty is this season. And unless they miraculously can up their game, and I don't even know how many seasons, if even there will be more seasons of Rick and Morty, but unless they miraculously somehow up their game and release a 4th season 5 years from now, I think we're hitting this. We're in the middle of what will be looked back on as a kind of legendary period for any show. Really, is nothing. Just they're batting so high right now. It's ludicrous. So, yeah. This week's episode was good.
Yes,
Armin,
it was.
Thoughts?
I 100% agree. Yeah. I think this week's episode was very, very funny. There were a couple moments that stick out to me, and I wish I had kind of watched some of the preview stuff that they had done for this episode before I watched the episode, because I watched it after. So leading up to this episode, they had these previews of like, who are the Vindicators? Who is World Ender? And they have this whole thing about like World Ender is the biggest, baddest bad guy you've ever seen. It's like if Thanos.
You know what they were doing? They were setting up. They were setting up an expectation so that they could subvert it. Armin.
Exactly, and so the whole point in the beginning where Morty's like, I'm using my card.
Oh, one of every 10.
One of every 10.
It's like fucking glorious.
Read him weep, motherfucker.
he stamps it. It's like a
little picture of his face.
There's a lot of, and then I also think that little lines, little things that they're doing to build it out make it clear that there's like mastery behind the building of Rick and Mortyverse, and something like mentioning how last summer the Vindicators thing, and I was like, man, did I?
No, I did the same thing. I was like, wait a second, did I miss an episode?
Like, did I miss an episode a couple seasons ago? And no, they're just saying like, hey, they've had thousands of fucking adventures that we have not seen.
Yep, exactly, and across multiple different dimensions. So we didn't even know what Rick and Morty were watching.
No fucking idea. And so this version of Rick and Morty have
already joined an Avengers analog.
That's right,
and gone on other quests with them in the past, and now. And that's well. I want to talk to one thing though, real quick, so because I know some people haven't watched it. Cliff hasn't watched it, but something I can speak to more broadly this episode is that we're starting to get the indication, and I enjoy this, but they start to actually tip. In previous seasons, previous episodes, they've made a lot of sport of the fact that like Morty is dumb and Morty is like subpar intelligent, and that's why they keep him around. And they even make a joke in this episode about how he's the mentally handicapped boy that we keep around for photo ops. And yet we have a series of things near the end of this episode where it's surprising even to Rick how competent and how intelligent Morty is becoming. That is to say that when it's a revelation to Rick when he goes over to like when the neutrino bomb's about to go off, and Morty pulls out pliers and he says, all right, there's a 40% chance that this one's a dud, but just in case. And he goes, Morty, how many of these neutrino bombs have you? Too many, Rick.
Too many, yeah.
Too many. And there's a couple other indications to that end. And this reminded me of something that I had, again, it's just a dumb fucking fan theory, and it's a perfect kind of gimmicky Westworldy fan theory that people love to harp on, but the notion that, in fact, Rick and Morty are the same person, and that at different stages in some sort of weird time vortex thingy, but
Morty is his own grandfather.
Yeah, or something like that. But basically the idea that the reason Rick is the smartest man in the universe is that because he is Morty and has grown up doing all of these adventures and cultivating all of this knowledge as a result of having been Rick's sidekick and then becomes Rick later on, with the one point of direct indication of that being, that the people who were kind of advocating this theory harping on is that in the first episode of this season, when they're in the Shoney's and they go and they visit his completely fabricated backstory, there's one throwaway line that you see Rick and he has short hair and he's wearing slightly different clothing, and he says, "Oh yeah, that's me. I used to wear blue pants." And like you see him wear blue pants, and Morty wears blue pants, and it was such a throwaway, silly line. I used to wear blue pants, but Morty always wears blue pants, and
point.
so I'm just saying, just putting that out there.
That would be really cool. I don't think that would take anything away from how good this has been.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole, and again, you talk about subverting expectation, that keeps coming up as like something that Game of Thrones isn't doing, and something that Rick and Morty does masterfully.
Talking to be the perfect example of surprising and inevitable is how deftly they set up the character of Noop Noop, which comes back at the end, and I won't go into it for spoiler reasons, but they managed to they needed a twist at the end, and so they managed to snake into the early part of the episode a setup for Noop Noop that allowed that to return, but return in a way that, so it made perfect sense given the relationship between the actions we see take place between Rick and Noop Noop in scene 1, and yet at the end it comes to take us completely off guard because we never assumed that is where the final sequence of the episode was going. And so that being the perfect example of what makes Rick and Morty so wonderful, what you're trying to do when you're writing, and what Game of Thrones is apparently just completely ignoring at this point. So
I 100% agree. Let's go ahead and wrap it up here.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other stuff that we can talk about, but I hate Twin Peaks.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with Twin Peaks. I just haven't made it around to watching it yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue
It's an
not
investment.
making it around to watching it, I feel like.
That's
Maybe
fine.
I'll watch all the live
this
music
just-
portions of
Yeah,
it.
this just isn't Armin's show there. That's the conclusion, the sad conclusion I've reached.
But he
is-
should watch Naked Lunch, the David Cronenberg movie.
Oh,
that we
sure,
were discussing
yeah.
Before the podcast. You should definitely watch that because you will enjoy that movie.
Will I?
No.
Yeah, I don't think I will.
I am curious to see Armin's reactions to various David Lynch feature films as against long 18-hour TV shows.
Have you seen Mulholland Drive yet?
No.
Oh,
I
don't think he
haven't
knows
watched
anything about
any
it.
David Lynch.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Mulholland Drive is a really good movie. You should definitely watch
Yeah.
it. And Blue Velvet is an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Blue Velvet is probably an aesthetic touch point better for the original series, but then Mulholland Drive is better touch point for the series which follows. So
Yeah, yeah.
both very, very good and worth seeing. See Blue Velvet first, then Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, that's a good evening
Yeah.
of watching right there.
Yeah.
It's dark, though.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Your social medias.
I am at Mr. Kyle Bogart on the best goddamn Instagram account on the internet.
I'm at Cliff Bogart on an Instagram account.
I am at a Supersonic Man on Instagram, Twitter, etc., and I'm the host of Hot Tag, available on iTunes.
Chase, what about you?
I'm at Chase 504 on all the things. My voice didn't work.
It comes as a surprise every time.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't do it last week. Like you completely ignored him last week.
I like to keep him on his toes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Dick.
And I'm at Armin
so-
Hoists.
All right. Cool.
You can totally say whatever you're going to say.
Yeah, what were you gonna say, Cliff?
It's still a podcast.
Well, I was just remarking on the long, awkward silence.
Oh.
This
Oh,
quick and
yeah.
snappy wrap-up.
Very good.
Stuff.
Well, thank you so much, folks, for watching.
Good job.
And,
That was great.
Yeah, great. Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.